Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I want to keep her from my dad when she asks why I don't try to integrate my step and half siblings into my life more? My parents are divorced. It happened when I, 16 female, was 7 years old. I remember back then that money was bad, and I learned pretty soon after that my mom was terribly financially irresponsible. The cause of the divorce was she took out a secret credit card and racked up debts behind my dad's back. And then when he found out, she refused to get help or get another job to pay off the debt. She has always had a thing for nice jewelry. Life with my mom was very tough. We were homeless on her time, and we would go from place to place. My dad had temporary custody of me for a while until she found a place. But then she would overspend and miss rent, so we moved around a crap ton. She met her husband when I was 9, and he had an 8-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter. And together, they were really freaking bad with money. My dad ended up with temporary custody of me again, because they blew $10,000 on a wedding when they didn't even have $500 in savings combined, and had no help from family to pay. They had a baby while dealing with the debt, and then another after she got some more custody of me, and then they had a third. So full-time, they have 5 kids in the house, 6 with me. They are forced to move a lot, and because of their spending, the kids don't have a lot of stuff. I spend Fridays and Saturdays there once a month, and an occasional midweek dinner. My step and half siblings all want more time with me. They have asked to come home to my dad's with me. Sometimes they will try to interact with him and ask to be included in stuff, and my mom always tries to get my dad to include them, but he says no. The other night, she called and asked why I didn't try to include them more. I told her it was because I want to keep her from my dad, that she left him picking up some pretty crappy pieces, and he shouldn't have to make up for her actions again with her kids who were nothing to him. That my dad has done his very best to give me the stability she wants, and the least I could do is spare him from dealing with her again. She's still ranting at me for what I said. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. They're your siblings. They're not your children. If they want more time with you, then they can ask to have you around more. Your mom can rant and rave all she wants, but you're setting a healthy boundary. If she doesn't like it, she can get over it. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they either know how crappy their living situation is and are curious about what your life is like with your dad, or mom could be telling them to try to stay with you and dad because she wants some relief. Regardless, not your problem for setting a clear boundary. Yeah, I don't think it's so much they want to spend more time with Opie, but that they are desperate for stability her dad provides. I feel really badly for those kids. Of course, they want to spend time in a more stable environment Opie has access to. But this is not Opie's problem to solve, nor her dad's responsibility. Not stay home. You are remarkably well adjusted for what you've experienced. Not stay home, Opie. You've pretty much handled this as well as anyone could be expected to. I applaud you for your efforts to keep things in perspective and behave accordingly. As far as your mother is concerned, if she refuses to dial down her efforts to change her mind on the issue, you can always point out that you're now old enough to decide where you permanently reside, including visitation, and that her behavior is not helping her case. Not stay home. They're not your dad's children, so there is no reason why they should be included. Included in what? It almost sounds like your mother is trying to leech more off your dad. Next story. Would I be the a-hole if I, 30 male, don't invite my step-siblings, 19 female, 20 female, 23 female, and 25 male, to my vacation home? My mom married her now husband when I was 25. I'd only met her then husband once before the wedding, because I lived on the other side of the country and it was an especially busy year for that year. My impressions after having met him that one time were anything but positive. However, I felt it was nothing to worry about and not really my business, as my mom's choices are her own. And how much of an impression can you really get meeting someone once? Then a few days before her wedding, I met the rest of his family, and it reaffirmed my initial feelings about the guy. His groomsmen and him were dressed as a biker gang as a theme. His oldest daughter actively tried to get me in front of my girlfriend who I brought as a date, and his other 2 daughters had to stay home as the wedding was child-free. The entire wedding was a debacle, as pretty much everyone on my mom's husband's side of the invitees were wasted. His daughter was caught having activities with a good friend of my new stepfather, who was at least 2.5 times her age in the bathroom, which almost caused a fight. Mom went home almost in tears, which is when they had another surprise. My 2 new stepsisters decided to have a party of their own, which resulted in half the house being trashed, a bunch of stuff missing, and a lot of beds were being occupied by, shall we say, other people. Suffice to say, we had to kick a bunch of people out of the house. Me and my girlfriend ended up staying in a motel and went home the next day. The only decent person in that family was the son, as he seemed to be embarrassed the entire day. Poor kid. It didn't improve much from that point onwards. The oldest daughter never gave up her weird infatuation with me, which made every visit extremely weird. Not a single visit went by without at least someone being wasted. And making it even worse was my mom really pushing for me to accept these people as family. That led me to distancing myself and visiting at most once a year. Meanwhile, I am very close with my dad, his wife, and her kids. Skip to these days. I bought a vacation home and ended up inviting my dad, his wife, and her kids along with my girlfriend and her family. We had a great time, and it was a welcome change from not having been able to take a vacation in a while. My mom ended up seeing a bunch of pictures of the vacation on my girlfriend's social media. I don't use social media, and inquired when we were gonna ask her to come. And well, there is the issue. I would love to invite my mom and a bunch of extended family from her side of the family, aunts, uncles, nephews, cousins, etc. But I'm pretty sure my mom will take her husband, which I could deal with. But I have no doubt she'll also want to invite and take along her husband's kids, which aside from the son I don't want anywhere even near anything I own. So here I am. Not today, home. I'd be happy to have you and your husband come for a stay, Mom, but I am not inviting your stepkids. Do you remember what happened at your wedding? I do. And every time I've visited, their behavior has made me extremely uncomfortable. I will not invite them into my home, so please don't ask. No matter how much you nag, I am not going to change my mind. And that's it. That's all you say, and you don't respond to any excuses or demands that might result. She will only argue with you if you keep the conversation going. Seems fair. Can't help to feel harsh, though. But why does it feel harsh? Have these people ever hosted you and your family? Have they done anything, that's normal I mean, to create a relationship with you? You already know that at least one of them doesn't know what a healthy boundary is. The rest of them don't seem very responsible either. You don't really know these people, and you've done your best to ensure that you see them as little as possible. So why would you risk your property and the safety of the rest of your guests in order to cater to irresponsible adults that you don't like? That doesn't seem harsh to me at all. I think it is largely because a large part of me feels extremely bad for my mom. It is trying to understand what she sees in this dude and his kids that makes her try so hard to get me involved too. Not today, home. Your house, so you're saying who stays there. On my point of view, I would invite nobody. Not your mother, not her husband, not the kids. As it started bad during the wedding, it will end worse in your house. Stay your ground and keep them out of your life. I don't want to downright boot my mom from my life, but I am inching closer to that though. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for giving our son's saved funds to our goddaughter and grandson? Hello, I've come across similar stories in this subreddit and have come to share mine. I've recently made a decision which have my son and some other family members hating me for it, but my partner and I are together in this decision. We have an account with money saved for my son, who is currently 22. This isn't exactly college funds because we have government subsidies, but just for easier referencing for Americans. Savings we made since he was young, and they were intended for his school, family, business, or whatever he needs when he becomes an adult. My son met this girl in his school when he was about 15, and had introduced her to us and we were accepting for their relationship. We consider her our daughter and form a good relationship with her parents. My son and the girl broke up a year ago when she got pregnant. He does not want the baby, but she does, and she insisted on giving birth with or without him around. I'm not sure about their whole story, but since our families are close and both me and my partner like this girl, we decided to stay in her and our grandson's life and we call her our goddaughter, while my son moved away to pursue his career. Being a single mother is hard, and because the girl's family is less well off than ours, we decided to use the savings we got from my son for our grandson and goddaughter. We even told her she can move in with us. Though she declined, the door is open and we will provide any support we can for them. My son will be fine without them. He earns his own living and is not suffering from lack of money. When my son got to know that we gave his money to his ex, he got very upset and said that the money was promised to him, that he may need them in future, and that I had chosen his ex over him. He was already unhappy with us keeping our relationship with her family and baby, but this one made him feel like he got betrayed by his own family and have nobody to depend on. The explanation I gave him is that she needs the funds now and need them more, while for him it's money in case of emergency. Furthermore, the child is my grandson whether my son like it or not. So we have every right to help our family. My son has turned this into a family drama, and some of the others in extended families are saying we did him wrong. Are we really? Not today home. It's ultimately your money. Simply being told it was to help him out doesn't make it his. On top of that, you're using it to support the child it sounds like he isn't supporting. It's similar to not getting an inheritance he thought he was getting, except you're still alive. Some of the others in extended families are saying we did him wrong. Turnabout is fair play as far as I'm concerned. He feels his parents did him wrong while quite literally doing his own kid wrong. Let him wallow in his own pity party. Love this. He is being a full-on hypocrite. Tell him to man up and take care of his kid. And by the way, he is 22. He has been an adult for a while. His mommy and daddy need to explain actions and consequences, which is obviously something he has not learned yet. You are being way too easy on him. Next time he or any family member comes whining to you, go full and hammer time. And let him know how ashamed and embarrassed you are of him. And I sincerely hope you are. His actions deserve nothing but scorn. It ought to be rewarded by giving him fun money. You are great for standing by your grandson, but seems like you've already enabled him way too much. He acts like that and expects free money from you? Hell to the no. Not stay home. As far as I'm concerned, the money is going to him. It's just going towards fulfilling his obligation as a father. If you don't mind me asking, does he often treat women this way? Like, was he just scared, or does he make a habit of treating women poorly? He used to treat the girl very well, like a princess in his words, and they have been together for years, unless there are things they did not tell me. He changed after COVID struck and had lost some money, but still had enough to sustain himself. As far as I know, he wanted to start anew by moving elsewhere for a change, but the girl was unwilling, and at the worst time possible, she got pregnant. They argued over keeping or terminating, and they separated since then. Last story. Am I the a-hole for restricting my daughter's visitation time before her dad deploys? My 36 female children, 4 total, spend every other weekend with my ex-husband and his wife, including my oldest 16 female who is not biologically or legally his. This past spring, the wife got a new job that would prevent her from transporting my children to and from school since they live outside of the district. It is not a civil situation at all, and there is a severe lack of communication coming from them. I heard through my children that my oldest would be driving them to and from school from now on. My daughter got her license 3 months earlier and is not quite comfortable driving on her own yet. She is far too inexperienced to drive that commute in rush hour traffic twice a day with all of her siblings in the car, one of which has behavioral problems and is prone to tantrums in the morning. I texted them when I heard this and told them they would need a different plan for transportation. It is not safe. The response I got was cursing and name-calling, accusing me of trying to control them. They never even asked why I was against it. They lied several times about the new transportation plan would be. But when I told them I would not send her to their home if they intended to use her as a chauffeur, my ex took time off of work to drive them until the school year ended. At the beginning of summer, I contacted them and proposed a plan that would get her more ready to drive them, since I assumed they would need her to do it this fall. The plan was for us to go in 50-50 on a car for her, so she could drive herself and the younger kids to and from his house for drop-offs. That would get her used to the car, the commute, and driving her siblings without a set arrival time or worrying about classes. Crickets. Then a couple of weeks later, I brought it up again and was told they would not discuss it. So I told them they needed another plan, because without the prep time, it could not be her. Right before the school started, I insisted they tell me the plan for transportation and was told very aggressively that she would be driving them. As a mother, the only way for me to keep all of my children safe is to remove her from the equation. My words didn't matter, so I was left with action. My ex deploys in January, but to nowhere dangerous. Currently, my 3 youngest go to their house every other weekend, and my oldest only on weekends to avoid them having her drive them to school behind my back. I've spoken with her about the situation, and she understands as she was uncomfortable with the idea to begin with. She has told me that if they told her to drive them, she would feel bad for saying no, and would do it to appease them even if she felt it was dangerous. Now X says I am vindictive, manipulative, and ripping his daughter away from him right before he deploys. Am I the a-hole? If they intended to use her as a chauffeur, this right here is the problem. When you first noted that your eldest is not your ex's biological or legal daughter, my first reaction was, what difference does that make? Is she not part of the family? The rest of your post explains that. No, indeed she's not. They intend to use her as a chauffeur, which is why they don't reply. And when they do, they reply with cursing and yelling and other attacks. Not only do you need to do this to protect your eldest and the rest of your kids, you should think about a modified custody arrangement. This isn't safe, and it sucks for all of them. As it is, you're doing what you can to protect your children, so you are not the a-hole all the way. Jumping on this to say, depending on where you are, it may be illegal for her to drive them. There are often restrictions for young drivers because they're inexperienced. In my state, someone who is 16 is only allowed to have one person under the age of 16 in a car with them if there isn't someone over the age of 21 with them as well. Definitely not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Let's either be a master, corporal, or major depending on his status, because that's the kind of bullcrap people with limited power pool. Daughter said she isn't comfortable. End of story. They need to find another solution. Aren't there any buses? They live in a different county, so buses aren't an option on their weeks. Not stay home. You're a great mom. You're listening to your daughter's needs and act accordingly. Imagine if your daughter has an accident where some of her siblings get hurt. That would be devastating for her. She's not ready for that kind of responsibility. That's actually one of the things I explained to her as my reasoning. I can't put her in the position to have to live with something like that, and I won't. Thank you for seeing that. Am I the a-hole for walking out the surprise birthday party my family threw for me? I, 26 female, have been married to my wheelchair-bound husband Adam for 2 years now. His disability was a result of a major car accident shortly after we got back from our honeymoon. His injuries were too severe and no one thought he was going to get better. My life certainly changed, because now I have tons of responsibilities, but I'm happy and blessed to still have him in my life. Before the accident, my family used to invite Adam to events and dinners and visit all the time, but not anymore. They don't see him much but help out with our financial struggles. I've been told that being a caregiver is huge and unfair since I'm young. My mom even tried to set me up with a guy named James, her friend's son, by inviting me to lunch with him or giving him my number/social media account. I told her it won't work. I love Adam and will care for him for the rest of my life if I had to. So I put space between me and my family, and said unless they stop bringing James, who was disrespectful towards Adam, around me, I won't visit them. Mom apologized, and I haven't seen James in months, which was a relief. My birthday was days ago, and I had to work that day but planned to celebrate with Adam in the evening. But at 3 p.m. I got a phone call from Mom asking me to stop by once I get off work. I arrived at Mom's house to find my entire family there setting up a surprise birthday party. I was thrilled, as I didn't think they'd even pay for a party after already helping me with money. Then I asked if I could go bring Adam so we could celebrate together, but they stalled saying my brother will bring him. And that's when the door rang and there was James. I was confused. I asked what he was doing there, and Mom said I should relax as she invited him and his mom. I remained calm and took the gift James brought after so much hesitation. I opened it and there was some jewelry piece. Then I made a snide comment asking if Adam was ever able to afford such piece of jewelry. I just closed the box and gave it back. They insisted I take it, but I grabbed my bag and said I was leaving. Mom said I should stay because the family, sisters, brother, and nephew came together to do this for me. I told her it was rude of her to catch off guard and invite James to the party. She and Dad followed after I walked out asking me to return, but I just kept walking. Afterwards, Mom and Aunt left messages, saying it was disrespectful to walk out like that after the efforts they made to celebrate my birthday. They said I had plenty of time to celebrate with my husband, and I shouldn't have made a scene and embarrassed them in front of their friends. They said I screwed up and overreacted by being hostile towards those who were trying to be nice and take my mind off the stress. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Haven't told Adam about it, so he wouldn't be burdened with family issues. He's still emotionally recovering and I'm being careful about the stuff that would upset him. I found him asleep when I got home. He usually sleeps as early as 5 p.m. We didn't have a celebration, but talked in the morning. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. The James stuff goes far beyond trying to be nice. That's some evil crap right there. It's ironic because you had literally just married your husband. In the vows, there's always that in sickness and in health stuff, and they want you to straight up abandon your husband the second he needs you? What if the situation was reversed and she was in the wheelchair? Would they not expect Adam to help as her husband? I hope his family sucks. Not the a-hole, but at this point, no contact or low contact because they will keep trying. And James is weird. The problem is it sounds like Opie and Adam are dependent on her family financially. Opie, I hope you and hubby have filed for federal disability payments. I know it can be a pain in the butt and take forever, but this is the type of situation they exist for. Not day-hole. Not even a teeny tiny little bit. But curiosity has me wondering, did you find out if your brother was actually going to get your husband? The answer has no sway in my ruling. I'm just curious. No, my brother never left to go get Adam. This just makes you even more not day-hole. You're a saint. Your family's absolutely freaking abhorrent. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for canceling my son's birthday party upon discovering that he ruined his stepbrother's deceased brother's hoodie? It's a complex situation, but I'll do my best to explain. I'm male 45, have a bio son Leo 16 from my previous relationship. I married a stepmom who is a mother of 2 boys, Connor, 20 deceased, and Derek, 12. I've never had the pleasure to meet Connor, who tragically passed away from a motorcycle accident. Derek was so devastated by this loss, and although it's been years, he's still pretty much grieving. I've seen tons of pictures and videos of Connor, and made efforts to get to know who he was as a way to share Derek's grief and be there for him to lend an ear and a comforting shoulder. It's safe to say that Derek and I grew a strong bond in no time, but my son Leo isn't close to Derek. Understandable, because not all siblings and step-siblings are the same. Leo and Derek are different in everything, which isn't a bad thing. But Leo calls himself the brutally honest type and makes insensitive comments about Derek most of the time, which tend to be under the guise of advice. Derek never complained, so I had to step in and tell Leo to stop being insensitive towards his stepbrother, especially with everything regarding Connor and his memory. Leo would say, "Okay, I get it, and I won't do it again." Then days ago, Leo wanted to hang out with my friends and asked Derek if he wanted to join. Derek agreed and put on Connor's hoodie before going out. Leo commented on the hoodie and called it ugly and asked him to put on something else, but Derek insisted on wearing it or not go. So Leo dropped it. Hours later, Derek came home crying with his hoodie in his hand. He said Leo and friends cut it into pieces while he was in the bathroom after they convinced him to take it off. I was furious. He asked Leo and he said it was his friend's idea, then said he had to do it since Derek wears it everywhere and it looked old and embarrassing. I reminded him who this hoodie belonged to, and he said, "So what? Maybe this will help him move on in life." I then told him his birthday was cancelled and his friends aren't welcome anymore. He pitched a fit, saying his birthday was a right, not a privilege, and I can't cancel it. He had my ex criticize my decision and wanted to host his birthday party, but I refused because he is grounded, so no party anywhere. She and her family then called me awful and ridiculous, and asked me to thank how Leo will hate me for this. But I insisted he needed punishment for putting his stepbrother through this. Note, the hoodie belonged to Connor when he was younger, and Derek kept it. Not day-hole. That's a cruel, cruel thing to do. Edit. Just read the ages. At 16, your son did that to a bereaved 12-year-old. Perhaps seek therapy for him? If this story is true, there is something really wrong with a 16-year-old son. His birthday was a right, not a privilege. That may be one of the most entitled things I've ever heard. He did something absolutely terrible, and that hoodie can't be replaced. I cannot believe the complete lack of empathy that he displayed with his actions. What he did to Derek was cruel. He absolutely deserves to have his birthday celebration cancelled. Not day-hole, and good on you for actually disciplining him even though he's your bio son. For context, there are quite a few AITA posts where a parent will choose their bio child over their stepchild, even when they're clearly in the wrong. He is absolutely right that the birthday is a right. He can have his birthday. Nobody can stop him from turning 17. However, celebrating it is a privilege and not a right. As cruel as he was, he deserves the right to turn 17 without any fanfare. Not day-hole. Not day-hole. You're a calmer man than me. If my 16-year-old son did that, I would have lost my mind. What he and his friends did was freaking horrific, and they need to be shown how terrible it was. Canceling of his birthday is a good start, and some serious soul-searching is also in order. Bravo to you for not allowing your ex to interject and throw him a party anyway. We did have a loud argument, trust me, and I lost my temper. But Leo is the type that talks back, so he's the one yelling most of the time. The outcome is the same. I still cancelled his birthday because of what he did, and also because his friends aren't welcome to my house for what they did as well. I'd be talking to the parents of the other kids as well. All of these kids need their behinds handed to them stat. I gotta say, some of those kids' parents are enablers. They see nothing wrong with their kids' behaviors, but make no effort to even take time of their day to have a civil discussion about whatever issues I'm dealing with as a result of their kids' behaviors. It is how it is, because Leo tends to be protective of his friends despite them being bad influence. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making my sister leave my house after her joke about my son's mom leaving again? My son Jack is going to be 2 soon. His mom Annie has a complicated history in how this all happened. Her husband passed away, and 3 months after that we slept together. We were barely friends at the time, so I didn't know until after our first night together that she'd recently become a widow. But she told me she was really lonely, and just enjoyed that physical connection. So for about 8 months that's how it was, though we didn't see each other too often. Then we found out she was pregnant. She wanted to go through with the pregnancy, and I fully supported her if that was what she wanted. The thing was, she still had a lot of grief, and when my son was born it was hard for her to connect with him. She said she felt guilty having a baby with another man after losing her husband. By the time Jack was 4 months, she hadn't gotten any better, and her mental health completely deteriorated. I took over with him full-time after this, since she wasn't in the best place to be a mother. Annie still visited a few days out of the week for a short period, but I was doing most of childcare while she went to therapy. Then she was in the hospital for a while, and she couldn't come over much during COVID except for video chats, so she's essentially become a stranger to him. 3 months ago, she started coming around more after not seeing him for a while. She's on antidepressants, and therapy has helped her a lot. Now she's more set on being a mom, and we're slowly reintroducing him to her. My sister hasn't been happy about this. I know she's upset on my behalf as I struggled a bit as a single parent. She knows the situation that happened with her, but still thinks she shouldn't be allowed back into Jack's life after abandoning him. And yeah, I get her feelings. But since Annie's in a better place mentally, then I want to give a shot at Jack having a mom around. I still have my guard up, obviously, and we're taking it one day at a time, but I see how different she is with him now. Well, my sister hasn't stopped making comments no matter how many times I've told her to knock it off. She dropped by unannounced when Annie was here, and was very openly hostile right in front of Jack. Annie offered to leave, and then my sister jokes, "Make sure you come back this time." I told her to leave, and not come back until she can act right with the mother of my child. My sister is offended that I'm taking her side by kicking her out of my house, since she's only angry on my behalf and it was a joke she made. That's why she thinks I'm an a-hole. But for me, I was thinking I'd rather get her out ASAP before saying something else in front of my son. Was I being an a-hole? Now for the comments. Not an a-hole. You've repeatedly set boundaries with your sister regarding how she treats Annie. Actions have consequences. And this is all affecting, or will eventually affect, the kid. Having his mom be treated poorly by his aunt is not in his best interests. Not an a-hole for a number of reasons. 1. Your child will do best in life if he has a healthy mother. You've done a great job of making this happen for him. 2. Her mother is struggling with her mental health. I doubt your sister would be so judgmental if she had to go away and get treatment for cancer. Her mental health isn't her fault, but it is her responsibility, and it sounds like she has taken responsibility for it and gotten help, which is great. 3. If your sister really cared about her nephew and you, she'd keep her comments to herself. They don't help anyone. It doesn't matter if she's saying them on your behalf. They aren't constructive, like at all. You're a good person, Opie, and a great father. Your kid is lucky to have you, and so is his mom. Keep up the good work. There's so much. Annie didn't abandon her son. She didn't leave because she was fed up with being a mom. She had to go away to become healthier. She wasn't being irresponsible. If anything, she was doing the responsible thing of becoming better so she could be a better mom. Not an a-hole. She didn't abandon him. She realized she couldn't be his mother with the way she was feeling mentally and emotionally, and she did her best to get better. You're an awesome person for having her back and understanding. Also for being such a good dad. Your sister is an a-hole for making jokes when she knows you're okay with Annie being around him. I wish you the best, dude. I guess it's different when you're the one who witnessed everything that happened instead of just being told about it. Me personally, I saw how much Annie struggled, so I want things to be better now so they could have a healthy relationship. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for sitting mother-in-law and father-in-law down and telling them we will not support them in their old age, and they can't live with us? My husband's parents have been divorced for 15 years, and both remarried within a year or two of splitting. Father-in-law and his wife are not doing well financially. He has a gambling problem, while she has a shopping problem, and they live way beyond their means. I try to mind my own business, but my husband is the only child, and I worry that they think we are going to provide in their old age. Mother-in-law on the other doesn't work. She is married to a man who works in commercial real estate and is very successful. He owns a share of the firm, is semi-retired, and they live very well. We aren't close to mother-in-law. We are civil when we see her a couple times a year, but there isn't much of a relationship. So we decided that we had to talk to father-in-law about his retirement plans in the future. We want him to have fair warning and understand that we are not going to be helping. We decided to talk to mother-in-law as well. Not that she expects anything, but to make it less embarrassing for father-in-law to be fair. We asked them both to lunch, and told them that they will never be welcome to live with us, and that we are not going to fund them in their old age, so save accordingly. Father-in-law seemed embarrassed, but said he understood. But mother-in-law began to get angry, and wanted to know why she was there. I explained we were just being upfront, but she kept demanding to know if she had ever asked us for anything. She said we wasted her time. We haven't seen each other since Christmas, and why would she even want to live with people she sees 2 or 3 times a year? She then said she doesn't even like us, which seemed kind of dramatic, then stormed off. I am somewhat friendly with mother-in-law's stepdaughter, and I heard from her that mother-in-law's husband is pissed. He is pretty old-fashioned about gender roles and the man providing, and I guess he took it as a huge insult. Mother-in-law is apparently offended because she thinks I lumped her in with her ex. I think everyone's just being crazy dramatic. You're the a-hole. You took someone out to dinner who never asked to live with you, and who you barely see, just to tell them they were not welcome to live with you? And you're going to sit there and pretend you're completely shocked that they might take offense. Also, you were wasting her time. Waste someone's time to set boundaries that were never needed, then shocked Pikachu face when they're offended. Hey, I just wanted to take you out to dinner to let you know that if you end up needing a kidney transplant and I'm a match, you can't have mine. We organized the special dinner to make an announcement. We will not be helping to plan your funeral or even be in attendance. What, you thought you were getting grandbabies? Haha, no. You're the a-hole. You insulted your mother-in-law just to make her ex-husband more comfortable? Also, you insulted your father-in-law by having a very awkward conversation in front of his ex. Also, why did you even need to be there? Why couldn't your husband talk to his parents alone? How did you think this was a good idea? You're the a-hole. You were incredibly rude to your mother-in-law, and her reaction was totally justified. No wonder she doesn't like you. I just saw this, and I already don't like Opie.